Thanks for tuning in to the Urban Scope podcast. I'm back with another hip hop topic. And of course, with the recently released albums from Drake, he released three projects this past week. And of course, the one of the points of contention or the points of interest that everybody wanted to get into was the disses on the album because everybody knew the disses were coming. They just didn't know who was going to get dissed. We had ideas of who would be dissed, and it seemed like he really pulled no punches in this album as far as disses goes. But the biggest conversation is regarding his arch nemesis, so to speak, in Kendrick Lamar. Now, everyone expected there to be disses because of the damage that was done a couple of years ago. Some people thought, well, maybe, he'll be a bigger person and move on, and maybe he'll let it go because everybody has moved past that, and you keep making it worse when you bring it back up. And of course, he didn't let a lot of people down because he threw shots at Kendrick, even though the beef is over. Everybody has since moved on, since Not Like Us. Even after Not Like Us, Kendrick released a project about 5 months later, GNX. There were no apparent Drake disses on that album. There were no mentions about the beef. It seems like Kendrick moved on, and it was just a moment in time that he had to get off his chest with the Drake beef. Now, Drake, on the other hand, after the Super Bowl and all these things, he continued to talk about the betrayal from people. He continued talking about the beef. He pursued a lawsuit that was dropped, but eventually, I think he's still in the appeal process, possibly for that lawsuit. So he didn't seem to let it go. He seemed to be very frustrated with Lucian Grange, who is over, Universal and UMG. So, if you follow this beef in any kind of way, you expected Drake to be petty and still continue the beef. But the question is, will Kendrick Lamar return fire in this beef? Because you can say that Kendrick started the beef or he ignited the beef when he was on Like That with Future and Metro Boomin, and he sent the shots at him at Drake and Kendrick. I mean, at Drake and J. Cole. So you can say he ignited it, and then Drake responded, and then he had to respond, and that was the end of it. But this time around, it's a little bit different because we know Kendrick, once he drops a project, he has a hiatus for a couple of years, and then he comes back with the vengeance. Now, is Drake trying to lure Kendrick out of that cubbyhole? Because if Kendrick comes back again and he does the same thing and does what he did to Drake last time, it's gonna be looked at as, you know, uh, so to speak, not low hanging fruit because I hate using that phrase, but it would be seen as a cheap victory because we already know that Kendrick is a better lyricist than Drake. He writes his material, while most people allege that Drake doesn't write a lot of his material. So he's more a performer and more of um, uh, a figurehead more so than an artist, especially when it compares to Kendrick. So there are a lot of different things, and it's not a lot of comparisons when it comes to Drake and Kendrick. Both make two different types of music. We know that Drake's music is mostly for the club and for women and for younger guys who haven't found their footing yet in life, who seek to find or probably never will find a relationship. But in Kendrick, it's more for the thought provoking, the guys who settle down, the guys who are emotionally stable, those type of people. But it's a huge difference. But I don't think that Kendrick will return fire for this simple reason. If you've been, in school or if you've been out in the streets and a guy fought a guy and he beat him up real bad, what incentive does the guy who beat the other guy up have? It's not it's not something that you think about. So if someone beats somebody up or beats them badly, or even in sports terms, if I beat a team by 30 points 3 or 4 times, like a UConn women's basketball team, if they beat a team, by 30 points 3 or 4 times, they're not really looking forward. They're not studying for that other team. They're just going into the game, just say, only thing we have to do is show up. We don't have to bring a game plan. We don't have to scheme for anybody. We won so convincingly the first time. What incentive do we have this time to actually fight this person or go against this team? There's really no incentive for it. So I don't think Kendrick will do that. Now, if there are enough disses and maybe the song get a little, it um, gets a little sunlight, maybe he'll come out and sneak diss him on a song or something. But I don't anticipate Kendrick in any kind of way returning fire from Drake's disses, especially since they were pretty mild at best. And there was nothing that for the fans to catch on to. There were no TikTok moments or no social media moments. There's nothing that will radio or chart off of Kendrick diss because everything was pretty light. The Muggsy Bogues reference wasn't even really clever. I think he could have did a lot more when it comes to the disses. And I'll do a review of the album as well because I felt like the album was pretty mundane and pretty nursery rhymey for Drake for a big artist of his stature. It seemed like if Taylor Swift released a rap album, that's what it would have sounded like. It sounded pretty mild, pretty mid, as the kids would say. But yeah, I don't think Kendrick will return fires for the simple fact of he doesn't have any incentive and there was no competition last time. If it was at least competitive and there were no lawsuits, maybe Kendrick will. But then that's another thing I was thinking about as well. If you lost the battle the first time and you couldn't take your L and you started getting out lawsuits and started exposing the industry for the little nuances that everybody knew about that he benefited off as well, such as like the bots. If you do that the first time, what lengths will you go the second time to avenge a loss or be a sore loser? So nobody probably wants to see you lose two times in a row. Well, actually three times because let's count Pusha T as well. What lengths will Drake go to protect his image or to not take the loss. So nobody really wants to see that. So I think it'll be best for Kendrick not to respond anyway because people that can't take losses, you never know what they're capable of. You see the lawsuits today of people um, end in relationships and it might end amicably, but somebody gets the wrong end of the breakup and doesn't want the relationship to go. Then there's lawsuits and accusations and all these different things. So Drake is one of those people when things don't go his way, he finds another way to try to get at you, even at the expense of himself. But if he can realize that every entertainer, every athlete, every famous person has taken an L before, and no matter how great you are, people will turn on you at some point. Even the great, Michael Jackson, people turned on him. Chris Brown was had a trajectory that was very nice, and people turned on him probably for good reason. But every entertainer and celebrity, everybody ever that lived has had people turn on them, and you have to look at yourself in the mirror and take some accountability at the end of the day. Just because somebody left you or just because somebody don't feel the same way about you no more, you have to look at in the mirror and take accountability because nobody's perfect. So you just have to look at the ways that you can try to fix your flaws or your shortcomings. But it seems like Drake is not willing to do that. But yeah, I don't. Uh, I just don't understand how you didn't take the loss because in the words of Kendrick Lamar, when the ish hit the fan, is you still a fan? One of my favorite songs that he put out, I want to say it's called Mortal Man. And he addresses this issue way before the Drake beef. And Kendrick says, he basically comes up with scenarios of different ways that, he could be disliked in the media or disliked from his fans, but are the true fans, will they still be there? Because there are a lot of artists that went through a lot of different things, but the true fan base is the fan base that'll still stick there with you and are able to separate the music from the person. Because we know there have been artists who've done hideous things and done awful things, but the music, some people can separate the music from the artist. And true artistry is that. So Drake has to realize if he really has true fans, they would have never left him in the first place. But some fans can still listen to his music and still not care about how inauthentic he is and how disingenuous he might come off of, and how the home record techniques that he has imposed, trying to break up relationships and talk about other people's women's and other things like that. So some people can still listen to him and separate the two. Some people just want genuine artists or artists to be genuine in some kind of way. But either way, you have to take the L for the things that you've done. You have to take that accountability. Drake has not taken that accountability. So that has to be on him. So tell me what your thoughts are about the Kendrick disses on Drake new albums or Drake new album. And until next time, I'll see you next time.